right, seeing no speakers, we'll go right on to number 10, conduct of business. A, adopt resolution amending the 2009-10 capital improvement program to add the Lions Field synthetic grass project, appropriating up to $200,000 of park in lieu fees for survey and design work, and authorizing staff to apply for grants and conduct a fundraising campaign. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. On March 9th, staff and the Park and Recreation Commission presented information to the City Council about the Lions Field synthetic grass project. The project would call for year-round use of the facility for multiple sports, for a wide variety of local nonprofit organizations. Tonight's request is to allocate up to $200,000 from the Parks in Lieu accounts to do the engineering and the site design work. There is an estimate that we've received from one of the vendors that this work would be about $125,000, because there are some unknowns with tying it into the storm drain system. We would be asking for an allocation of up to $200,000. If this allocation is approved, the Public Services Department would send out an RFP looking at engineer design firms, and then would come back to the City Council with an agreement with one of the firms, or to approve an agreement with one of the firms to go ahead and do the work. At the same time, staff is asking to begin a larger scale fundraising effort, not going around to small businesses and things, but to pursue some of the larger grant opportunities or some of the foundations. With City Council's approval, staff has already applied for one of the grants through State Proposition 84. That was a $600,000 application. We have not heard back from the state at this point. They did call up staff, I believe, yesterday and asked a clarifying question, but it seems as though it's just procedural more than leaning towards either way. We have also applied for a grant through U.S. Soccer Foundation, and that was a $200,000 grant that we were asking them for. So we are looking at both of those items. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Any questions of staff?
Through the chair.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is, just so I'm clear, we're asking for up to $200,000 under park and lieu fees, which will be added to the capital improvement. Then, therefore, it would the engineering and everything would, and the analysis would come back to council for a clear appreciation of what is going to be on staff time, what it's going to be the direct costs after they've done all of their work. And then the council from that point can evaluate it and then proceed forward if they deem necessary. I will say that I agree, and I think it's a necessity as far as the fundraising efforts, if you want to call it that, or the grants or foundations that you've mentioned. I think we would be looking and wishing, at least speaking for myself, that if we go forward on this, the whole park and lieu fees not be drained for that task, but in essence offset by some of the various fundraising aspects that you've raised.
Anyone else? Questions?
And if I could add to that, you made it clear at the last hearing that these park and lieu fees are only available for the purpose for why they were collected. So it's not like the public thinks that we should be using park and lieu fees to get a new pool, in this case, or park and lieu fees to fix up the rec building, recreation center. Am I correct?
Not exactly.
Okay.
The park and lieu fees that we collect are collected under what's generally known as the Quimby Act. It's a feature of state law. And under the state law, the purpose of the collection of those fees from new development projects is for, and the funds can only be used to expand the capacity of parks and recreation facilities.
Okay, right.
So, in fact, the items that you just listed are generally, although we would need to look at any particular project carefully to validate the application of those fees. In general terms, I believe that those projects would all likely be eligible uses of the park in lieu fees collected by the city of San Bruno. You are correct, however, that the fees are collected for a restricted purpose, and they may not be used, for example, for general fund purposes to provide police officers or for other specifically eligible uses.
To staff, is there a time limit on using these fees?
There is. The Quimby Act requires that the fees be used within 5 years or returned to the applicants or the developments from which they were extracted. That is the purpose for which you receive, if the council may recall, an annual report on your development impact fees, the parking lieu fees being one of those that is typically reported to you, the status of the fund and the status of expenditures.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff?
One last, what would be a figure that you would be targeting for fundraising? As much as you can get, or is there?
Pretty much.
We will try and get as much as we can towards the project. As I said, we've already looking at $800,000 in grants. I think I think staff would feel comfortable coming back to council if we could raise at least half through fundraising efforts, and then taking the other portion. I think staff would at least make a recommendation or have the initial discussion with council at that point. But we will try and get as much as we can through the outside sources.
And I think, I mean, I had this concern initially about expending all of the park and lieu fees, or the vast majority of it, until you did speak about the grant possibilities in that $600,000 grant. So press on and get that.
Any other questions of staff? Any action by the council?
I'll adopt the resolution.
I know, I'm quiet too.
No one else is speaking up?
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.